Hi, welcome to the data presentation tool, the DPT training series. For this video, I'm going to be talking about gathering data about your diabetic patients using the DPT. Before I get started, a little bit of information about the DPT. The DPT has been developed to allow for quick and user-friendly data queries without having the need to have any knowledge of SQL or how databases work in general. It's been set up for the Canadian Primary Sentinel Surveillance Network database. Depending on the type of search that's being performed, the DPT is either going to provide a visualization of the data, or it's going to give you an option to export the data that you can use then with another visualization or reporting software. For this video, I'm going to be providing an overview on how to gather data about patients with diabetes, including patient characteristics, medications prescribed, doing some general trending, etc. And by the end of this video, which is about 15 minutes long, I will have built a detailed data report about the diabetic patient population for this data demo set. This report could then be distributed to any of your target audiences or used for presentations, publications, whatever. So let's get started. I'll be using different tools throughout this video. For more information about those tools, I recommend watching the other videos or talking with your local SIPSN data manager. Okay, so we're going to get right to it. First thing we want to do before anything is we want to actually look at our full patient population. We want to establish what is the denominator of patients that we're working with. So for the full patient population, we're looking at about 22,500 patients. This is a demo data set. We're going to start building our report right now. So we're going to build a report and we're going to focus on diabetes. So I'm going to say PDF. We're going to do a diabetes demo as our focus. First search name is all patients. So we'll press OK. The DPT is going to generate a PDF for us. It's going to start building a PDF. First page of our PDF, full demographics. I'll just zoom out and show you what that looks like. Okay, so that's our first page. It looks just like what you see on the DPT. Okay, now let's get to it. Let's take a look. What do our diabetic patients look like? For that, I'm going to use the conditions on the left side of the DPT. SIPSN does have an algorithm that identifies which patients do have diabetes or are at risk of diabetes. I'm not going to talk about that in video. It's quite a detailed algorithm, but it has been validated and is quite effective. So we're going to use that for this search. So this is going to show me any of the patients within this database that have been identified as having diabetes. Execute the search. Fine, it's a new search. Great, so we got about 1,600 patients. I'm going to add this to my report real quick before we talk. And so these are our patients with diabetes. Okay, and I'm going to add it to our report. And so what the DPT is it's building a multi-page PDF for us to use. Okay, so if I was to zoom out now, it's just popping open for us. You're going to see that I have a two-page report now. Okay, let's keep going. So first things, now that we've got our first diabetic search in, you can see an age-gender distribution right away. You can look to see what the patient population looks like. You can see on the top right how long it's been since these patients have come in. You can see below the condition prevalence. So of our diabetic patients, 18% are depressed or have depression, 60% have hypertension, etc., etc. So let's do this first. First thing we want to do is we want to play with this time since last visit. We only really want to look at those patients that have been in the last 2 years. So let's update our search here. We're going to look at those patients that have been in the last 12 months, time since last visit. And let's make sure that we have patients that we're not really interested in a really older population. So we're going to go for those patients that are under 80 for now. Let's go under 75. Okay, so I'm going to execute the search. Fine, we're adding to our existing one. So we have about 900 patients here. You can see how the age gender distribution has shifted now. We've removed our patients that are over 75. And we now have only those patients that have been in the last 2 years. You can see who over in the time since last visit months area. Let's add this to our report. So patients with diabetes, with a visit in the last 2 years, and under the age and under Let's go and under 75. Not great. Less than 75. Okay. Okay. Yes. Great. So what we want to do now is let's look at some of the, well, it's generating here. We're going to look at some of the indicators for diabetes. Let's break this down and say, well, that's great. I'm really curious only on those patients that maybe have their A1Cs that we may need to worry about managing. So show me those patients with a HbA1c that are, their most recent HbA1c that's greater than 7. Of course, are the ones that have had a visit in the last 2 years. So I'm going to go into my lab results. I'm going to look for A1C. I want the most recent A1C, and I want to know anyone that has a A1C that's greater or equal to 7. And it's got to be the most recent one. Execute that search, find, it's and. Okay, we're down to 352 patients. We're going to add this to our report before I go too much further. So we want that comprehensive report by the end of this with the most recent A1C greater than or equal to 7, not 87, and okay, with visit in the last 2 years and less than and age less than 75. Okay, let's copy that so it's not so hard. Okay, press OK. Yes. So you can really start breaking this down. But before I break it down even further, we want to validate to make sure it's giving us what we think it's giving us. So here's where you can click on the View Results button. At the View Results button, it's going to give you it's really a chart review. You can look at a patient by patient basis and understand what's going on there. So right now we're looking at a female, age 57. We can see that she has one of the CPCSSN conditions, and it is indeed diabetes. Down below here, we have a classification breakdown. We can see which shows why CPCSSN has been identified her as having diabetes. She's had 27 diabetic related billings. She has 20 labs that are diabetic specific and 20 medications. Okay, well, let's take a look at what that looks like. So we could first want to see lab results. So I want to highlight, there's lots of labs in here. Show me just the A1C. Highlight the A1Cs for me. Okay, so there's an A1C, 8.4 is their most recent yet. Let's go down to see, oh, there's her last one before that, also 8.4. Um, looks like there's a little, okay, but there's lots of different labs in here. Let's go to another patient first. We'll click on here to go to the next patient. Okay, there's the different A1Cs. I just want to see their A1Cs now. It's getting messy. So HbA1c in the filter area. There we go. So there's a list of all their A1Cs. 9, 817. Okay, great. So if I click through a few more patients, we can quickly validate to say, yes, these all have greater than 7 as their most recent. Wonderful. I can go to demographics. I can see their age is falling within what I'm expecting. I can check different things. I can look at medications they're on. I can say, well, is she on metformin? Let's just take a look here, just for fun. Okay, yeah, she is. Her last prescription was in 2013. You can see the start date, doesn't have a stop date, but you can get information what's going on from here. Okay, a lot of it's dependent on the data behind the scenes, so you can't control that. It's the data from within the EMR. Okay, great. So it's looking good so far. So there's our summary of our patients. Let's just do another cut here for fun. Let's get rid of, or actually let's show me those patients let's look at those osteoarthritis patients. That's weird. We have 20% of those. So let's look at those 70 patients here. So we're going to do a new patient. Show me those ones that have osteoarthritis. Execute, find, and so here's our 70 patients now. We can see what's going on with them. We're going to add this to a report just for fun with diabetes and osteo. Okay, we're going to add it to our report. And you can see how we can quickly add the report, but now we want to understand, well, what's going on with these patients. You can either look on the results, do a chart-by-chart review, or you can take advantage of what's called the other reports. What we have in there is we have related drop-downs. And the related drop-downs allows you to look at all the related records of a specific type. So for example, show me all the allergies that these 70 patients have. Show me all the billings that these patients had. But we're going to look at medications. Give me a list of all the medications that these 70 patients are on. Okay, so I'll click on that right here. Related medications. DPT is going to give us a little bit of a warning because it could be a lot. So we'll confirm. Okay, so there's on 5,000 prescription. Remember, this is the history of medications for these patients. And so the DPT is not going to give you a visualization, but at this point you can do an export. So I want to do an export. These are medications of whatever. We don't need to title it. I'm going to open this up. Now you're able to export it to Excel and do whatever you need to do with it in there. Okay, clear that. I just want the medication name, frequency, dose, patient ID. Let's just start from there. Oh, well, let's throw in the provider ID too. Where is that? I don't see that, so we're just going to do patient ID for now. So export. Okay, and there we go. Now I've got a list of those 5,000 medications that I could use. I can run analysis in a different software. I can look at frequencies, any type of reporting I want to do to understand what type of medications are patients that have both diabetes and osteoarthritis, who have an A1C, most recent A1C greater than 7, and have a visit in the last 2 years. Here's a list of their medications. So you can really drill down deeper. And with the DPT, you need to understand it's not a statistical tool. It's a tool that facilitates exports and data queries so you can understand what type of questions you want to have answered. Another example right here is I can say, well, I only want the medications that were prescribed in the last 2 years as well. So I don't want all of them. So I can take the start date now, show me anything from January 2013 forward. So let's do greater than or equal to, execute the search, find, and so now I'm down to 1,700 medications, and they set records of medications. I could do an export from there. So now these are just the medications that have been prescribed to that group of patients we talked about earlier. Go from there. Okay, back home. Let's go back to our view. So you have details about those patients. So you can see how you can take advantage of the related views here. Other things we can do, and not specific to this search that we're doing, but we can get to understand our general diabetic patient population more. This can be done through the general reports and save searches. That can be either accessed from that screen or you can access it from the dashboard and the data reports. First report we have is we have a medications table, the top 20 prescribed. Going into the medications table gives us a top 20 prescribed. So let's look at the diabetic patients with diabetes, and this gives us percentage of patients that are on each particular medication, broken down by the top 20. So we can see that 33%, almost 34% are on metformin. 26% on this next one gives you a breakdown. Now these are patients that have had a prescription in the last 2 years. Let's add this to our report. Confirm. This is meds report. Okay, add. Let's wait for that to load here. Okay, it's added to our PDF. I'll show you that in a bit. We're going to do one more report. Another report we can look at data trending. It's really basic data trending. I've already loaded one here just for the sake of time. But what we can see in this trending here is on the blue line, these are the A1C values of the full patient population. You have to take in consideration this is inclusive of our diabetic patients. So you're going to see similar peaks and valleys. But then on the black line, it's broken just to say only our diabetic patients, what does it look like? And you can see a fairly significant jump. If we were to take the diabetic patients out of here, you can imagine it even further down. So it is what it's expected. This is to be taken with a grain of salt. It's just a rough, raw trend of averages. But let's add that to our report for fun. A1C trend. Yes. Okay, so now what I'm going to show you In the 15 minutes of this video, we've been able to do fairly comprehensive search about our patients with diabetes for this particular data set, and we have a report that we can take away and look at to generate further questions, generate data for report, presentation, whatever. So we have our denominator, patient denominator. We have all of our patients with diabetes. Patients with diabetes with a visit in the last 2 years and are under the age of 75. And then we start digging deeper. Most recent A1C is greater than or equal to 7. Those with also osteoarthritis with all the same criteria. Top 20 medications for our diabetic patients and a trending report. Okay, and so now we have this PDF that you can distribute. You can use for whatever you'd like to use it for. And in this 15 minutes, good picture of the diabetic patients. There's still other things we can do, but sake for time, we'll end there. For further questions, please feel free to contact your local SIPSN data manager or leave comments on this video. Thank you.